I am Dr. Rebecca Reeder. I am so happy to be here to support Banned Book Week. Most of the banned books are actually the books I love. They're banned for many reasons, but they are great literature that we often pull from the shelves for something that's very real. I love reading. Despite my energy, despite what others think, I actually calm down and take my time to enjoy a good book. So today I picked out The Glass Castle by Jeannette Walls. This is one of my favorite books. Jeannette talks about how life is both a tragedy and a success story for everyone, tragedy and a comedy. And she's very real in the book. She talks about her life experiences. She relates to many types of people. And in this book in particular, I'm going to read a passage about a Christmas she had when she was younger. Jeanette's father had just lost his job, and the kids did not expect to get anything for Christmas. So this is about how special someone can be, even if they aren't the ideal person in the world. So Jeannette Walls, The Glass Castle. Dad lost his job at the gypsum mine after getting in an argument with the foreman. And when Christmas came that year, we had no money at all. On Christmas Eve, Dad took each of us kids out into the desert night one by one. I had a blanket wrapped around me, and when it was my turn, I offered to share it with Dad, but he said no thanks. The cold never bothered him. I was 5 that year, and I sat next to Dad, and we looked up at the sky. Dad loved to talk about the stars. He explained to us how they rotated through the night sky as the earth turned. He taught us to identify the constellations and how to navigate with the North Star. Those shining stars, he liked to point out, were one of the special treats for people like us who lived out in the wilderness. Rich city folks, he'd say, lived in fancy apartments, but their air was so polluted they couldn't even see the stars. We'd have to be out of our minds to want to trade places with any of them. Pick your favorite star, Dad said that night. He told me I could have it for keeps. He said it was my Christmas present. That's right, Dad said. No one else owns them. You just have to claim it before anyone else does. Like the Dago fellow Columbus claimed America for Queen Elizabeth. Claiming a star as your own has every bit as much of logic to it. I thought about it and realized Dad was right. He was always figuring out things like that. I could have any star I wanted, Dad said, except I don't know how to pronounce this, but Betelgeuse and Rigel, because Lori and Brian had already claimed them. I looked up at the stars and tried to figure out which was the best one. You could see hundreds, maybe thousands, or even millions twinkling in the desert sky. The longer you looked and the more your eyes adjusted to the dark, the more stars you'd see. Layer after layer of them gradually becoming visible. There was one in particular in the west, above the mountains but low in the sky, that shone more brightly than all the rest. I want that one, I said. Dad grinned. That's Venus, he said. Venus was only a planet. He went on, and pretty dinky compared to real stars. She looked bigger and brighter because she was much closer than the stars. Poor old Venus didn't even make her own light, Dad said. She shone only from reflected light. He claimed to me that planets glowed because reflected light was constant and stars twinkled because their eyes pushed. I like it anyway, I said. I'd admired Venus even before Christmas. You could see it in the early evening glowing on the western horizon, and if you got up early, you could still see it in the morning after all the stars had disappeared. What the hell, Dad said. It's Christmas. You can have a planet if you want. And he gave me Venus. I find this one of the most amazing passages in a book that many will not be allowed to read. Her dad, poor, they're living in a camp in the wilderness, and he gives her a star for Christmas. But not just a star, she got a planet. He was giving her the world while we are trying to not allow people to read of this beautiful story. And it's true, if you further read in the book, not to give anything away, but she becomes a very successful businesswoman that lives in New York City, but she tends to go back to those areas and yearn for those stars and those moments that her dad gave her.